Oh my God, my husband loves you. Oh my God, my wife loves you. Like, let's come in.
Steve and Marjorie's marriage was never very happy, and Michael B. Jordan always knew this. And now that Marjorie is being accused of having an affair with employees, it appears like the relationship may be coming to an end. Was Steve Harvey really the person to accept dating advised from after the cheating allegations emerged?
Like mother, like daughter. Well, Steve don't deserve this, honestly. So Steve's wife...
Marjorie was allegedly unfaithful to Steve, not once but twice, with 2 different men, and you'll never guess who they are. One of the men is Steve's personal bodyguard. The other man is Steve's personal chef. Couldn't Marjorie have taken it out of the family? The bodyguard is the same guy who played the role of Cupid and introduced Steve to Marjorie. Steve's bodyguard William Freeman, also known as Big Boom, is said to have been the one who convinced Steve to reach out to Marjorie again. I said to Steve, "Look, I've never seen you happier than when you and Marjorie were together. Before you do something stupid like marry someone else, I'm going to call her," Steve told People. And while everyone is laughing at the irony, Steve Harvey, who has been giving relationship tips for years, is now struggling with his own relationship issues. Maybe he should write his own book, but it gets worse. As these stories continue to spread on social media, there is another shocking development. According to court documents, Marjorie intends to receive half of Steve's assets in the divorce settlement. This would leave her with an additional $200 million in assets. Everyone was taken aback by the sudden turn of events. Someone wrote, "It's astonishing to learn that Steve Harvey's spouse Marjorie was cheating on him with his own bodyguard, and now she's seeking a divorce while also making a staggering $200 million claim on his assets." And apparently, these reports are coming from sources close to Lori Harvey's ex, Michael B. Jordan, who apparently had suspicions about Steve's relationship advice all along. Before meeting Steve, Marjorie had led a life quite different from the lavish one she enjoys today. Her first marriage was to Jim Townsend, whom she married in the 1990s and had 2 children with. Interestingly, these children, Morgan and Jason, were later adopted by Steve. Unfortunately, Jim was involved in illegal activities that eventually led to his arrest and the end of their marriage. The FBI reportedly did not investigate Marjorie properly during their marriage and accused Jim of being a drug lord, according to Radar Online. But did you know that Marjorie also had a nickname? She was known as Lady Heroin. Jim served 26 years in prison before being pardoned by President Obama in 2017. Marjorie managed to avoid charges by divorcing Jim while she still could. And she didn't waste any time hopping to the next man. Marjorie's next marriage was to Darnell Woods, Jim's scout, who was also involved in drug dealing. She definitely had a type. They had 1 child together, Lori, who was adopted by Marjorie. However, Marjorie ended her marriage to Darnell as soon as she realized Steve was on his way to becoming a Hollywood star. Marjorie's relationship with Steve is a bit of a mystery, as she met him in the late 1990s and dated him briefly before splitting up with him. Then they reconnected in 2005. Marjorie and Steve Harvey's love story is one for the ages. It all started in 1990 when Steve and Marjorie met for the first time at the comedy club where he was a headlining act.
Seats were right here at the front, right by the stage. So we were sitting here, the stage was here. So he's just quiet. He just keeps staring at me. So I'm waiting on him to make me a part of the show so we can get on with the show. So he stayed quiet so long staring at me. Now everybody in the club is looking at me. And so he finally realized, okay, I gotta say something. He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know who this is, but I'm gonna marry her."
However, things didn't work out at the time. It's more likely that Marjorie didn't like Steve's financial situation at the time, so she broke up with him. Fast forward to 2005. The couple reconnected through friends, and this time, something sparked. The couple's relationship deepened, and Steve eventually decided to pop the question. They tied the knot in June 2007. However, there was one other person on Steve's and Marjorie's side of things. In fact, there were a few more people on their side of things. First, there was Steve's ex-wife, Marjorie Shackelford. Marjorie believes that Steve was unfaithful to her while they were together because he was moving on too quickly.
When I think about how quickly he moved forward from me to Marjorie, That was disturbing.
Then Steve took their son, Winton, away from her.
He took my Winton from me. He turned my son against me.
However, as usual, fans believe there is someone else at fault. Fans believe that it is Marjorie, not Steve, who is to blame. In fact, it appears that Marjorie gave Steve instructions on how to portray Mary in the media as unstable, and she had Steve gaslight her by accusing her of being vengeful and causing harm to their son. Marjorie tried her best to blame Mary, but everyone sided with Mary. Marjorie quickly became one of the most disliked Hollywood women. Even Mary revealed Marjorie's true colors.
I know that as a mother, if I was ever in a position to where I had to be in charge of somebody else's child, I definitely make sure they have a great relationship with that child. But I just don't see how Marjorie, in particular, can call herself a mother to her own children and deliberately try to sabotage my relationship with my son.
And let's not forget the children. Steve had adopted Marjorie's children and loved them like his own. Or rather, he loved them more than his own children. The children had changed their last names as well. Brandy's siblings thought it was odd, but didn't comment on it because they thought it would be over. But boy, did they get it all wrong. After her children were born, Steve began to neglect his own children, and they all noticed that for some reason he was more focused on his wife Laurie than he was on his daughter. Did you know that Marjorie was behind all of this? She was the director, making Steve put Laurie in the spotlight while keeping his own kids in the shadows. Now picture how Steve's kids must have felt when they saw him treating Laurie like a princess. While they barely had a father figure, one of his own sons, Broderick, had to practically chase Steve down just to spend time with him.
I didn't really have my dad full-time into my life until I was 6.
Laurie enjoyed father-daughter activities that Brandy did not, including boy talk. Brandy was clearly hurt that he went on dates with Lorian because he did not do that with her.
On one of our annual father-daughter dates to my favorite Japanese restaurant, and you just started talking to me about guys, and you just told me that you always supported me and you'd always be there for me no matter what, and you loved me unconditionally.
The drama didn't end there either, as Mary added her own piece to the story. Steve and my son weren't the best of buddies when he came to visit, she said. Harvey beat up my son Winton once when he was 11 years old. Poor Winton had cuts and bruises, but I didn't think it was Steve's fault until Mary told me. According to the police report, Steve became very angry at Winton for lying about his homework. So he allegedly used a belt and a paddleboard and gave Winston bruises all over, even on his buttocks and legs. Winton even had trouble going to the bathroom for days after that. Now everyone's on Steve's neck for being a fraud. After he married Marjorie, Steve's career got pretty exciting too. He began to provide guidance on love and relationships to many people. In 2009, he published a best-selling book titled Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man. The book focused on how women should relate to men who, according to Steve, were simple. He believed that men were primarily concerned with earning money. The book argued that women should make their men feel like protectors and providers. One of the things Steve said in his book was that living with your boyfriend before getting married wasn't a good idea. He thought the only way to go from being a girlfriend to a wife was by setting a wedding date. Basically, he made marriage sound like the secret to keeping a man happy. But here's the weird part. Recently, it's been reported that while Steve's advice was being given to others, his personal life was in shambles. Now it's being said that Marjorie has an affair with Steve's co-workers. How weird is that? People are pointing out the disconnect between Steve's personal life and what could be going on in his marriage.